because they even disagree that downloading is legal. And so we were at a point where we had decided to go to court, to ask the court to actually declare that downloading is legal, to confirm that downloading is legal, and also to declare that what FTD is doing, so offering the platform like this, is legal as well. So where are we now with the lawsuit? On May 18, FTD sued BREIN. We started what's called a bodemprocedure, so that's the complete lawsuit with all the bells and whistles. It's going to take about a year and a half for it to be completely decided. In June, I'm sorry. Why does it take so long? Well, why the lawsuit? Well, that's a good question. Let me give you a little more background there. FTD was approached by BREIN somewhere in December last year, and BREIN said, you have to shut down your website because you cannot allow people to say this kind of thing. And you cannot allow people to identify stuff that's on Usenet. Even if downloading is legal, which we disagree with, you cannot tell other people that they can download it there, because then you are facilitating the uploading of material. Because what's going on FTD, people that make good spots, as they're called, that tell people about this stuff, they get kudos. So they get famous and they get recognition. And that's a kind of reward. So you are encouraging people, you are rewarding people for identifying illegal uploads. You're also allowing people to spot their own stuff. So people upload movies and then go to FTD and they say, hey, I've just uploaded this movie, or somebody, quote, quote, has uploaded that movie and you can download it. And that kind of stuff should be illegal, so you should not have this particular forum, you should not allow people to say this kind of thing. FTD made some adaptations and made sure that the text all clearly stated what FTD is about and what FTD is not about. But still, BREIN felt this was not enough, and we started the lawsuit to go to court and to clarify once and for all that downloading indeed is legal, and that if it is legal to download, it's also legal to tell people where you can download that material. So on May 18th, FTD sued BREIN and said, we want a declaration from the court that confirms that downloading for private use is legal. We also want a declaration that says that what FTD is doing is legal. And we also want BREIN to publicly post an apology on its website saying we should not have called FTD illegal and criminal in its activities, which they did in a newspaper, the Volkskrant, in January of this year. And it seems I have forgotten the sheet about that. But I can give you a copy if you want. So we're asking for what's called a declaration from the court, een verklaring voor recht, that confirms that what FTD is doing is legal. In response, BREIN countersued, an eis in re conventie for the Dutch people. So they said, well, you can ask all of that, but we disagree completely with that. But now that we are here in the court anyway, we ask the court to shut down FTD and to pay a big fine for every day that they stay open, and to pay a big fine for all the damages they have done to the people that we represent. We are right now preparing our response to that, and I have to get back to work this afternoon actually to finish this, and we hope to file it in a couple of weeks. After that, BREIN gets one more chance to respond, because we started it, they get the last word. And then there will be a hearing, so we will all have a day in court and we can all repeat our arguments and see if there are any new ones. And after that, we will get a verdict. After that, probably an appeal. I'm not sure who will appeal because I'm not sure who will win. Of course, I'm confident we will win, but it's always hard to predict what the courts will do. So I don't want to speculate too much about what the lawsuit is going to do, because we still have a full round of arguments to go, and we still need to figure out exactly what we are going to say, and I would like to see what BREIN comes up with next. But I'd like to talk a little about what I see as some of the problems with copyright online and copyright law as it works today, because this fight between FTD and BREIN, I see it as somewhat antique, overbodig, superfluous, because this is a debate that should have been done by the lawmaker about 10 years ago. But we are still stuck with that copyright law from 1912 that regulates how materials can be used and what can be done with material that was created by other people. And this law really needs to be adapted. It should have been adapted a long time ago to fit in better with the information society. But the last thing that was done to fix the law was to strike the number 1912 from the title, because that made it clear that the law no longer was from 1912. So copyright law really was designed to protect printers, to protect people that copy materials in a large industry setting. I know you have a couple people, a couple of institutions that allow you to copy things and to multiply things, and in that context it makes sense to regulate that copying, because printing is expensive and preparing books for printing is expensive. So there's investments going on that need to be protected to stimulate the printing and distribution of books. But today, printing, copying, distributing works is no longer a specialized activity that happens in some handful of locations, some printing presses and some printing offices. Everybody copies. You copy things thousands of times, but you even link to things that are made available elsewhere. You republish materials by linking to it, by embedding it, by distributing it elsewhere. And all of this is regulated by copyright. Every single copy you make is a copyright infringement, unless you can find an exception in the law. Every hyperlink that you make is arguably an illegal act if it points to something that should not be online. Every time you make, for example, an embedded movie, an embedded YouTube movie, the Buma Stemra would like to have some money from you because you are republishing that movie, simply by copying that embed tag from YouTube in your own movie. So as Larry Lessig says, everything you do touches upon copyright. Everything you do with electronic works or works in digital form requires permission from the copyright holder unless you can prove otherwise. And this is supported by laws and international treaties like the WIPO Copyright Treaty, the DMCA, which you may have heard of, and the European Copyright Directive, which is basically a copy of the DMCA that says the same thing. Everything you do requires permission from the copyright holder unless you can prove otherwise, and even then you probably need to pay money. And if somebody puts a protection measure on it, you are not allowed to circumvent or break it. And if you do that, you're acting illegally and you could even go to jail for that. This is a big problem. Together with the heavy-handed rhetoric from copyright holders and industry lobby groups and their enforcement practices like arresting minors or elderly people that don't even have a computer, you see a complete erosion of all the respect that people had for copyright law, if any, to the point where things become a parody of themselves. This is an actual ad from the UK, where they don't even bother arguing that copying is bad. It's just linked to terrorism in the hopes that you will feel scared and not copy anymore. And this actually creates a complete opposite feeling among many people. If copyright holders argue that copying is equal to terrorism, people do not take copyright holders seriously anymore. Copyright law becomes harder to accept, impossible to accept. It becomes ridiculous to a point. And this is why we now see counter-movements like the Pirate Party, for which this is the flag. People now really see this is getting beyond ridiculous, this needs to be fixed. But how can we fix copyright? This is a big problem because copyright is firmly entrenched in all those treaties and laws that I showed you, from old to new. And if you want to change copyright in any way, it needs to fit within all those treaties, or you need to repeal all those treaties. And repealing all those treaties is extremely difficult, especially the Berne Convention, which is over 100 years old. Yes, please.